At this point in time, our live stream is public for anybody to watch, and but our recordings are not, and you have to request a login because there's thousands of messages on there, and we've seen what the news media, they basically have unlimited resources and time to comb through stuff and twist and craft whatever narrative they want. But on social media, you have no control over anybody who gets to see any of the recordings or what's out there. And so if you're going to build up that library of content, which is useful for members, especially newer members, it's also out there for any news organization or anybody to go back and grab things and take them out of context and twist them. And so there's that trade-off as well.
Welcome to another edition of Maverick University Podcast. I'm your host, David Hallberg. Joining me today is Brother Joel Swarga. Brother Swarga is the youth pastor of Northwest Bible Baptist Church, a longtime friend, and just been through high school together, been through college together, now work in the ministry together, and it's a pleasure to have him with us today. Thanks so much for joining us. So I want to talk to you today a little bit about the dangers and the risk, or potential risks anyway, of churches putting their live stream on social media and using that to house their social media and their church live stream. You deal with a lot of technology with our church. You do a lot of graphic design work, web design work, coding. If it's technological in any way, you've got a hand in it usually. And so can you tell me a little bit about why address this topic?
I think it's important for the illustration to be made of a house being built on property. When you have any type of branding or content associated with your ministry or that's out there online, and it's out there, it's going to be on some sort of property, whether it be your property or another property. And the thing with social media, using that for all of your content, it's a good thing. It's available. It's out there. But understand it's not your property. And so it'd be like having a house or a church building built on a different property, and you have to follow the rules of the person that owns the property. You have to understand that at any time they could change the rules. At any time they can take your house down and do whatever they want. They can destroy it, they could burn it, they could get rid of it, because that is what the rules are that are set up, is that you don't own anything on that property. And so, in fact, you are the product. You're not paying for a product. You are the product that they're selling to their advertisers. So, dealing with social media and churches, that's where people are. I mean, that's where they're on social media to be able to reach a community. It's good to have a presence there, but just don't put all your stock in that it's going to be around forever.
Yeah, I mean, it would be foolish not to utilize social media for a ministry, because that is one avenue of influence that you can have. But what we're talking about is not just simply the live stream aspect of it, but some ministries are depending on that, or may depend on it, to archive all of their sermons. And if that is where everything's archived, understand, you don't have an archive there. Facebook does, or Google does, or YouTube does, and it can be taken down at a moment's notice, and you can lose all of your content. I was reminded of this the other day. Google Photos used to have this ability for you to upload as many photos as you want, unlimited, as long as under a certain quality setting. They've just taken that away as of just a couple months ago, and now you have to start paying if your amount of stored photos and videos goes above 10 gigabytes or something like that. And then I realized that, wait, these are my photos. They're not mine. They're on somebody else's property. And just like that, I could lose all my videos, all my photos of my family, the things that I hold near and dear. And we've got to find another way of actually storing this stuff. And so that's what you're talking about with church ministries. So obviously the word cancel has become a household term these days, and we see people get canceled. What are some things that, what are some of these terms of service you're talking about? What are the things that could be said or done that would cause that to go away?
So any of these platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, they all have policies in place where if you break those policies, then they put a strike on your account, for instance.
Sure.
And after 3 strikes, then they terminate completely. And we've seen this happen with very prominent people, You have President Trump had his Twitter account banned completely because they say, well, you go against something that we don't allow. And a lot of times it's worded in such a way where people think, oh, nobody would say stuff like that anyways, right? Oh, they're banning hate speech. Well, we don't say anything hateful. And so, yeah, that should be banned, and all of a sudden, but you look at the specifics of what they mean. Go to their policy pages and see the examples they give of what hate speech is. Look at the hate speech alone on YouTube, I think, is 4 or 5 pages of rules and content and what's protected.
Really? Wow.
Protected characteristics of these type of people. And here's the examples of what you cannot say about any of these type of people, or you will be banned.
So the ironic thing is, as we post this on YouTube, we're talking about the things and the dangers of it, but that's the world in which we live.
That's the world in which you live. Because one of the dangers is if you are dependent on that property owned by somebody else, I'm going to do whatever it takes to stay on that property if I'm dependent on it.
Yeah, and that may be okay for maybe a politician who do change their message to meet, get more votes. That's what politicians do. They're trying to manipulate words to try and garner support. But that's the opposite of what a preacher is. A preacher's not a politician, right? And so you're cautioning, hey, a preacher might be tempted to craft his message so as not to be deplatformed. And you go down through history. You've got men constantly through history been imprisoned, beaten, martyred for their faith and for their uncompromising preaching. And yet we're willing to compromise because we don't want to get kicked off of Facebook or YouTube or whatever it might be. That's kind of crazy. I think of mentioned President Trump. I think of other, people who've been censored. Prager University is another conservative YouTube channel, and they're being censored too. And they're not saying anything that's necessarily hateful. It's not hate speech. It's kind of mean speech more than anything else. And they just stop being mean to me.
It's just truth.
Yeah.
Truth is being censored, and that's not a conspiracy. It's just reality today. And you look at those examples on hate speech policies. I mean, saying that a particular group of people has a mental illness that needs to be cured. That is one of the things that will get you banned. Mm-hmm. And one of the groups of people is people with gender dysphoria, people that think they're another gender than what they actually are. And so right there, you can't preach against transgenderism. Sodomy is protected. You can't say that stuff is wrong. You can't say it's wicked. Preaching on Sodom and Gomorrah, that'll ban you. So, you say, well, I don't have a big following. It's just church people watching this, so, they're not going to even, I'm going under the radar. But it just takes one person in the community or whatever to flag you. Anybody can report you for hate speech. Sure. And once that gets investigated, you're done. So, worst case scenario, you're off the platform. But my reasoning here is to understand that is a risk. Yeah. And you don't have to not use those, but understand that they can go away, and don't allow them to censor you or self-censor because you want to be able to stay on those because you have no other option.
So obviously having all of that taken away from you is a obvious risk, but there's obviously some other problems as well with, maybe housing your live stream on a social media type platform. What are some of the other things that you think about?
One thing that can be frustrating there's members in our churches that don't want to be on social media. They had an account and they just got fed up with it. All the stuff they were seeing there, it was a distraction for them. It hindered them spiritually. They got rid of it, and now their church is saying, if you're homesick or for some reason you need to watch the live stream, we need you to go onto social media again. You got all the distractions that come up with that. A lot of times people have to make an account to be able to watch it, and so that is also a potential risk. There is that you have these harmful effects for your viewers just by being on there, and there's distractions and things that way as well.
Not only that, but these live streams are not just seen by your church members, but they're seen by other folks as well who may not be as sympathetic toward the gospel or our Bible truth. Can you talk a little bit about that?
At this point in time, our live stream is public for anybody to watch, and but our recordings are not. And you have to request a login, and we give those out selectively if we can figure out who this person is. Are they a church member? Are they somebody that is maybe a member in good standing at another church? Because there's thousands of messages on there, and we've seen what the news media, they basically have unlimited resources and time to comb through stuff and twist and craft whatever narrative they want.
Sure.
And it's kind of like giving your enemy ammo when you just give them all the recordings of everything you've said over the last 15, 20 years and say, you know what, well, and it stinks because we want people who are looking for the truth and for the gospel, we want them to see that. We want them to have
Sure.
that. And so there's kind of a hard rock and a hard place there. But on social media, you have no control over anybody who gets to see any of the recordings or what's out there. And so if you're going to build up that library of content, which is useful for members, especially newer members, it's also out there for any news organization or a disgruntled or anybody
Sure.
to go back and grab things and take them out of context and twist them. And so there's that trade-off as well.
So, your recommendation is, although live stream is live and it's open and it's public, if you have your archived sermons in a place that's password protected for your church members, that might be an advantage for you to avoid people, it's extemporaneous preaching that we do in our churches, and we don't write our sermons out word for word, and it's not crafted that way. And sometimes you say something that could be taken the wrong way, and people might twist your words, like you're saying, and use it against you. And not only that, because they may not even only just take your content that's archived and twist your words, but then obviously they're going to post it somewhere. And we live in a world of reviews and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about that issue of reviews and Yelp and Google?
Online reviews. That's how we live by nowadays, right?
Sure.
I mean, if something has good reviews, we buy it, we go there. If it doesn't have good reviews, we discount it. There's no way all these other people could be wrong. And so I remember before we had a social media account for our church, there was a page. Facebook created a page for Northwest Bible Baptist Church for us.
Oh, okay.
They were creating pages. Google, the same thing. They create pages for places of business, and you can claim that page. But if you don't, then it's sitting there and people leave reviews or comments or things, and you have no control over it. You have no control over what pictures are posted with it. Mm-hmm. And so we claimed that, so it's pretty much no option to not have it, or it's going to be there whether you claim it or not. And then they started doing things where you can't hide reviews. You can't turn off reviews on some of these platforms. And so those reviews will always be there. And the thing with sometimes with churches, people will leave reviews that have never even been to your church. Mm-hmm. In some cases, they never even talked to anybody who has been to your church. But they get mad at something, and they're mad about God to begin with. And we've had people from across the country that have never been to our church, know nothing about our church, leaving reviews just because they know a guest preacher that has come to our church before, and they're mad at him, and so they come here and start trashing our reviews on our college and on our church and our camp, and it's all fake stuff.
Sure.
And you can report some of it, but I mean those reviews are there, and people see that, and they're looking in for church in the community, and that's the first thing they're going to see is your reviews. So what you can do to offset those reviews is encourage your church members who actually do go to the church, mm-hmm. who do know the church, to leave honest reviews from their experiences. And usually those are the people that don't leave reviews are the ones that are happy with it and excited about it.
Yeah.
And so if we have people come in the community and they see all these church member reviews, and then they see a few reviews left by people that are complaining about something, a soul winner come in their door, that happens a lot. They are able to make a judgment. In fact, we had a lady come a few weeks ago to church that she's from China. She's been in the States for a while. She was an atheist and started learning about God and creationism and starting to realize this is true. And she's looking for a church in her area, and she found our reviews, and there's people leaving 1-star reviews saying this church won't let people wear masks, which isn't true. People can wear masks if they want, just most people don't. And she sees those reviews and she's thinking, oh man, this church lets you make your own decision about what you're going to do, put on your face. And so she's like, I'm going to that church because of the 1-star reviews.
Wow, that's amazing.
She came.
Yeah.
And so that worked in our favor. But you're at the whim of whatever person in the community wants to make a comment. It's there. You can't take it off or change it. So tell your church members, hey, go by and leave some feedback and then offset that.
Okay, so let's talk about a solution to the problem, right? We've talked about and cautioned people, hey, there's a potential danger here of housing all of your archived sermons on somebody else's property. It can be taken away at a moment's notice. Obviously, the terms of service, we're constantly in violation of. If you're preaching the Bible, it's going to address some of these issues that are considered hate speech, according to Google, Facebook, Twitter, whatever it is. So what is the solution? What can a church do to make sure that if they're taken off Facebook, it doesn't matter. We at least still have our content.
So put it on property that you own, to use our metaphor. And so what property do you own? And most churches will have a website. They have a domain name that they own, providencebaptistcollege.com, nwbbc.com. And so whatever properties they put under there, now you might not own the servers and the hard drives and all that, and that's geeking out, but at least you own the domain name.
Sure.
And you have some say of what goes on there. And so if you put your live stream, embed it into your website, and point people to your website as much as possible, at least they can get there and you don't have to worry about it being taken down at a moment's notice. Most companies that host websites, they don't have a reporting feature for somebody who doesn't like the website to say, can you please take down this website?
Sure.
We see examples of how that that's happened before, where websites do get taken down, but it's a lot less likely than social media.
Yeah, social media seems more quick and swift to just make indiscriminate decisions without even contacting somebody who might be in supposed violation. They just cancel your account and they never actually tell you until you notice, and then you have that conversation. So having your own website, that's good. Then obviously you've got to have a little bit of your own equipment. That's conversation for another day. But is there some kind of a service that allows you to take whatever video stream you've got and actually get it onto your website? Is it a paid subscription, or what do you have to do?
I don't know of any free ones, because that's a lot of cost involved for a company to provide a live stream. Obviously, the social media companies do it for free because they're getting something out of it. They're getting advertising money out of it, and you are the product, But we use ChristianWorldMedia.com. They provide live streaming at a reasonable cost. They have different plans depending on how many listeners. They do have an archive feature there. We don't use their archive feature, but we do use their live stream. And so I just embed that on our website. They give you the code that you can put that on your website, no matter who makes your website. You just pass that code to them. They can stick it on there, and people can come to your site to watch your live stream. And so Christian World Media is a company that doesn't have the same terms of use and policy that YouTube and Facebook would have. So, sure. Plus you're not supporting one of these social media companies that in my opinion they hate everything about the Bible. They hate Jesus Christ. They hate Christians, and it's evident in their actions. So there's other companies out there that you could also, but that's who we use. And then we use Vimeo for archiving our sermons at this moment, but we embed everything on our website again. Vimeo is not too far off from YouTube. Now you do pay for Vimeo, so you're not the product, but they still have content policies and things like that. We might move off of them at some point, but I keep all of our content on our computers at the church as well. Okay. And so if Vimeo went away tomorrow, we still have everything we can upload to another service and embed it all on our website, and we wouldn't have to point people to go to different places. They can still get it from our website. It would just be hosted on a different company. Okay, so there's a way around it, and you just gotta, if you don't have anything like that, you're just gonna have to contact somebody and who has a little bit of know-how to build a website, embed some of these, live feed videos like you're talking about. So you may have your own content on your own property, but still can't somebody take that and misuse it in some way? What can you do to protect yourself? Yeah, even if you have it locked down with logins and things like that, people could get it in there that have nefarious reasons. So you see a clip that is posted somewhere on a social media account that's criticizing independent fundamental Baptist preachers, for instance, and you didn't give them permission for that. Well, if you have a copyright notice on your live stream page, then you can have what you need legally to have that taken down and removed from other platforms that you have not given permission.
What would that sound like on a website?
I have ours here on our website. We have, by continuing to the live stream, you acknowledge that all video and audio streams on this website are the copyright of Northwest Bible Baptist Church and may not be recorded or distributed without express written permission. So by having that notice there on the site, very small letters, at the bottom. But if our content shows up anywhere, I can report that, just like they can report you for hate speech. I can report that for copyright infringement and supply a screenshot of our copyright that we have on our website. And we've seen that get taken down
Really? So
before. So yeah, it works.
Okay. And the same thing obviously goes with the archive sermons as well.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, I think we've given a little overview of this, potential risk, and hopefully some churches can take this to heart and maybe change some of the way they do things. If they're hosting everything and all their eggs are in one basket, that basket can certainly go away in a hurry. So
yeah, and I would just start little at a time. Just understanding first of all there is a risk, and that we ought to work to getting as much as possible off of dependent on companies that are apt to take it down. And just a little at a time, work on building that out. Just like having your own property, your own building, it takes time to build your own stuff versus renting. But in the end, in the long term, it's going to be a lot more secure.
Thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it. So if you want to catch any of our other conversations with some full-time Christian workers, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe as well. And check out our audio-only podcast platforms as well. Thanks so much for joining.